So in this video, I'm going to take you through 5 really common protest behaviors that anxious preoccupied attachment styles often have in relationships. And really what protest behaviors are like coping mechanisms. Like when you're feeling triggered or frustrated or upset, the way that you tend to cope with the discomfort of that situation emotionally. And what you can do is follow along and sort of tally and see, do I have some of these different behaviors? And then what we're going to talk about is how they actually connect to unmet needs that may be happening in your life and how you can sort of make that bridge and understand if you have those needs met, you may not have to rely on those behaviors. So, protest behavior or coping mechanism number one is having accidental boundary violations. Now, what I mean by this is that you accidentally violate other people's boundaries, not because you would ever intend to do that in a million years. But when you're triggered, when you're feeling afraid of being abandoned, you may lose awareness of what somebody else's boundary might be and kind of try to override it. And this is because you're trying to cope by having closeness with somebody, by having proximity to avoid that feeling of abandonment. And examples of this are things like calling and texting repeatedly, maybe showing up to somebody's house when they said they needed space, wanting to sort of visit your partner and check in, but maybe they said they actually needed space. And so essentially what happens is when there's this triggering event, you don't call to resolve it or follow up with a text and say, hey, I'd love to resolve this, and then can sit tight and be patient, but instead sometimes keep reaching out, keep trying to connect with them. And it's all in innocence. It's all because you were literally just looking to have closeness and safety with that person again. But what's so valuable to recognize is that sometimes people move at a different pace with those things. Sometimes somebody may not be ready to resolve something as immediately, and you want to instead find those harmonious compromises for a better middle ground. Number two is sometimes you may find yourself testing your partner to see if they care. And what this really looks like is trying to sort of maybe push somebody away, but without the intention of actually doing so, but making a comment or, pushing somebody away a little bit to see how they respond, to test and see if they actually care about you. Now, this is something anxious preoccupieds do because they're just looking for reassurance. But if there's a partner's not giving it to them, then they may find this coping mechanism that they're using or protest behavior as a response. Number three is you may find yourself sometimes getting critical. A lot of this has to do with if your needs are not met, and especially if you're busy people pleasing and really showing up to meet your partner's needs, but then you feel like it's imbalanced, you may find yourself criticizing. Now, I always say we criticize when we didn't communicate a need first. So I say, for example, to somebody, you never do the dishes, when I didn't say, hey, I could use some support around the house. Can you do the dishes Tuesdays and Thursdays? Or, hey, you never do this thing at work. Instead of saying, hey, I need you to carry the workload here. I'm going to delegate this and this to you. Can you help and show up and work on this with me as a team? So we always criticize when we didn't communicate a need first, but it is a common protest behavior of an anxious preoccupied because you may struggle to really know your needs in a relationship, especially, if you don't know them, it's even harder to communicate them. Number four is sometimes you might find sort of going back to like the testing to see if somebody cares. Another variation of this that's a common coping mechanism is sometimes trying to make a partner jealous. And again, this is done in innocence. It's usually when you are feeling like, hey, I really need something. I really need reassurance. I need to see if they care. I can't tell. And rather than communicating the need directly, rather than letting a partner know, hey, words of affirmation is an important love language to me in relationships. Can we be more affirming to each other rather than initiating communication? Because that can feel really scary at first. Sometimes you might find yourself going about this in a roundabout way, like trying to see if somebody reacts if you make them jealous. And that's your way of seeing if they care again. And again, this isn't something that's happening all the time, but it may be something that you see yourself doing once in a blue moon, especially if you're kind of in a rocky point in a relationship. So I have some really exciting news, and it's that integrated attachment theory training is back. In other words, you can be trained to become a relationship coach certified in integrated attachment theory in literally 60 days. So who is this for? Well, of course, this is for any individual who wants to make an impact and really be of service to others while also obtaining freedom and flexibility and abundance in their lives. And this is also for anybody who's already a counselor, a therapist, a coach, and just really wants to expand their toolkit. We've had so many people enter into the integrated attachment theory program because they're just looking to obtain a certain degree of mastery in terms of understanding their own attachment patterns and also the attachment patterns of maybe their children or partner or other loved ones in their lives so they can really support those people and understand them more deeply. Now, please keep in mind that the last 2 times we ran this program, we filled up very fast. In fact, we oversold the programs and sold out completely. So if you're interested, click the link below to learn more and dive in with me. And I'd love to see you on the other side before seats run out. Last but not least, another common one I might see is trying to attach or get close to somebody more indirectly. So this may be like reaching out to friends and family of a partner, seeing how they're feeling about you, asking them questions, trying to sort of get connected to them indirectly or in these indirect ways. This happens the most actually after a breakup, I find, with anxious preoccupieds. They may reach out to an ex or friends of an ex, or family members of an ex after a breakup. And again, these aren't like bad things. These are just ways that you are coping, right? These are ways that you're coping when you don't seem to have a better way. But the really interesting thing is how much these are actually connected to unmet needs and how much if these needs were met first, this would change the way that you have to cope. So if you saw yourself tallying or nodding yes to a few of those different patterns of behavior, it doesn't surprise me. It's super common as an anxious preoccupied. And why does this actually take place? Well, what happens is when your needs are not met, then we sort of panic and we try to get our needs met in these indirect forms. And this comes from our subconscious mind. So when your partner's not being reassuring directly, and that's not a normal part of the relationship for your partner to be affirming and encouraging and let them know they love you, they care about you, they appreciate you. If there's a lack of reassurance, then you may feel the need to test, right? See if the partner reacts, if they're jealous, if you push them away a little, test the waters, if they respond and want to come closer. So one of the biggest needs you have in a relationship is reassurance. Another big one is certainty. And it kind of goes hand in hand. Like anxious preoccupieds want to know for sure that their partner is truly interested, truly committed. They really seek that certainty. And a number 3 need that's so important is feeling loved, wanted, and special. This is something that's so important for anxious preoccupied individuals and relationships. And if you see yourself having the ability to understand that these are your needs, what you can do about it is communicate the needs better, communicate the needs more directly, which is huge. And look for partners, date intentionally, and look for partners in the future who naturally have those qualities, are more reassuring people, also appreciate certainty in relationships, want to make you feel loved and wanted and special. And when you date more intentionally, this allows you to feel more fulfilled and then have those needs met in relationships and just feel better overall in terms of your connection to the partner. So I hope this makes sense. It's definitely super valuable to pay attention to. And if you're following along, I'm looking forward to sharing more with you.